God lives, like, completely. Kind of with my story before about Signet, like, you realize that his hand is in the work, always, and he's always really guiding you. Feel the Spirit and do what it says all the time. I remember, I guess this is another mission story, but I was being trained in Vilnius, Lithuania, and we, at the time, we were asked by our mission president to contact every member, non-active and active member, or less active as well, and just to contact them and to talk with them. So we had a list and a lot of less active members, and we were trying to go around and we were trying to knock off all these people on our list, and we got to one, and we went to this one part of Vilnius, that little suburb called Naujininkai, and we knocked on the door of where this member formerly lived, and no one was there. So we ended up knocking on their neighbor's door and asking him if he knew about these people, and he didn't. But he was this big, burly Russian man. He had his shirt off, and we were just like, oh boy. But he ended up being like the nicest guy ever. And we're like, so do you know where they went, or where where they would have gotten off to? And he just kind of was like, I think in this neighborhood somewhere over here. I heard that name around. You can go check there. And so we thanked him, and we went around that neighborhood, and we're just trying to figure out what to do. And we knocked on some people's houses, and we couldn't figure out where they were. We had no information on that. But then one of us got the feeling, we saw this guy across the street chopping wood, and we got the feeling to go talk to him. So we talked to him, and awesome guy. His name was Remus, and he was just extremely nice to us. He said that he didn't know these people, but he went to his own neighbor and asked them if they knew these people, and they didn't. But we just talked to him, and we ended up getting his information. He actually offered us a place to stay the night if we didn't have one, and he told his wife to put coffee on the stove for us, which we were like, no, that's all right. We don't drink coffee. But just an awesome guy, and his whole family was Lithuanian. I think he was the only person in his family that spoke Russian. But we got their information. We were really excited to meet with them, but pretty soon both of us were transferred out of the area. And there was a lot of restructuring in where companionships were living, and where they were. So eventually what the companionship that came in, it was a zebra companionship. So there was one Lithuanian speaking elder and one Russian speaking elder. And sometimes that would happen in our mission. And, we told them about this family, on our way out, and we're like, they're awesome. You guys should go talk to them. They're a complete family, which is extremely rare. You really gotta talk to these people. And so we left, and fast forward a year, I was with my trainer again, and we were actually in Narva, Estonia. And I remember and I guess it wasn't a year, it was maybe 6 months, and we had to go on a visa trip, so we went back down to Riga. And at the time that we were there in Riga taking care of some visa stuff, the same elder who was in Vilnius, Lithuania, he came up because he had some visa stuff, and we met them in the mission office, and he's just like, wait, did you ever hear about that family? And we're like, what family? And he's like, this one family that you guys gave us the information, and he explained the whole story, and we're like, yeah, of course we remember that family. And it's like, yeah, they the mother and father, they weren't officially married, but they're actually getting married, and they're going to be baptized, all the family, and the mother, daughter, and it was just incredible, and just made us feel super good. And they ended up getting married and baptized, and last time I heard, they were solid members. That was one thing that was really interesting, was like leaving Vilnius, because I never got any baptisms in Vilnius, or really any big time investigators. Most of our investigators didn't go anywhere. So I ended up leaving Vilnius just kind of feeling like a failure, especially after my first transfers, just being out in the mission, and then having that a few months later and just being like, wow, the Lord is using us even when you can't see that He's using you for His purposes. And I think that's a big piece of advice, to always not compare yourself. And as long as you're doing what the Spirit's telling you, even when it gets frustrating, and as long as you're being a good boy or a good girl and you're just doing everything that you can, the Lord's going to use you to benefit His kingdom, and oftentimes in ways that you can't see and in ways that you don't expect. He'll give you callings that, it might not be a calling that to really do a lot of missionary work or to find a lot of members. It might be a calling to work with the less active members or to work with members, but you can really make a difference regardless of how many baptisms you have or how many investigators you have. As long as you're doing what you can, the Lord's going to use your sacrifice, and He's going to really, really use it to build up His kingdom. And I was in a suburb of Riga, Latvia, and it was called Imanta, and the area was called Imanta, but I was actually in a place called Augenskallens at the time, and we had a list that we had made up of former investigators and people who were formerly interested in the church, and we were wanting to go contact them and really, really see if they would be interested or anything like that. So I remember walking into this Russian dome or Russian apartment building, and we walked into the stairwell and we knocked on the former investigator's door, and the lady came out and she didn't want anything to do with us, and she was just really, really upset. And then I remembered one thing that we are always told is ask referrals from everyone. And I was like, well, she's technically part of that, everyone. So even though she was kind of angry, I was just like, so do you know anyone who would be interested in our message? And she just kind of got a little bit gruff, and she pointed across the hall at her neighbor's door and then shut the door. And I was like, well, she probably was just trying to get us off her back, So we were walking out, and then my companion and I, we were just like, well, maybe we should just it doesn't hurt to try. So we knocked on the door. It was this lady named Signe, and she was awesome. She was a Latvian, and we had a few lessons with her, and we did a few service projects for her, building this shelf for her. And since we couldn't use power tools, we used hand tools, so that was kind of a fun thing, but it took us hours. She ended up not really doing anything with the church besides really having some really good discussions with us. But the really amazing thing was the month before that, this one member, she was baptized in Riga Center, and she was a Latvian member, and she got a lot of flack and a lot of her family was very, very much against her being baptized and being a member of the church. They thought that we were a cult and that we weren't great people or anything like that. So there was a lot of animosity there, and she was having a really, really tough time with that, especially being a new member. That can be very, very detrimental. But lo and behold, Signe, she was, I think she was her cousin actually, or something like that. And at the time we were meeting with Signe, right after this member was baptized, and Signe was able to actually go back to her family and be like, no, these guys are awesome. They're doing this service project. They're these nice boys. They believe in this type of stuff. And her family, from what I heard, hopefully it was completely like it was, but they came around and they're all right with her. And, there wasn't so much of that animosity before, because Signe was able to kind of stick up for her cousin and be like, no, these guys are really, really awesome. So that was a really cool mission story that I look back on